were. I set the magazine down my hands steadier than they'd been in days. I didn't need their texts or their visits to tell me my worth. Vivian had shown up not because I'd paid her debts or fixed her problems, but because she cared. That was the difference. And maybe it was time I started caring about myself too. On day 14, my phone lit up with 39 missed calls. I was propped up in my ICU bed, the bandages still tight around my ribs when the screen started flashing. My parents, Marvin and Mabel, had called over and over, their names stacking up like a ledger of demands. I let each call slip to voicemail, my thumb frozen over the screen. After days of their silence, I wasn't ready to hear their voices, not when they'd left me alone in this hospital bed. Then my cousin Bryce called, his name blinking as I set the phone down. I sighed, expecting another empty get well text. But when I answered, his voice was sharp, almost panicked. "Marion, it's bad," he said. "Marvin and Mabel are being sued. It's Joanne, she's caught up in a financial scam at the bank." Bryce's words hit like a jolt. Joanne, my sister, had always been reckless, bouncing checks, maxing out credit cards, but this was a new low. He explained how she'd been skimming thousands from client accounts at the bank where she worked, funneling it to cover her own debts. She'd siphoned nearly $10,000, forging signatures to hide her tracks. When the bank caught on, they filed a lawsuit, and Marvin and Mabel were dragged in because they'd co-signed a shady loan for her, thinking it was legit. "They're freaking out," Bryce said, his voice tight. "They need your help, Marion. You've always fixed things." I stared at the IV dripping into my arm, my mind spinning. Fix things. I'd been their cleanup crew for years, paying their rent, clearing Joanne's debts, keeping their lives from collapsing. And now, while I was fighting to move without pain, they wanted me to dive into their mess again. I ended the call with Bryce promising nothing. My phone buzzed again, another voicemail from Mabel, her voice cracking as she begged me to call back. "Marion, we're in trouble," she said, her words rushed. "You've got to help us." Marvin's message followed, gruff and urgent. "This is serious, Marion. Call me." I didn't listen to the rest. Instead, I opened the group chat, my fingers steady as I typed 2 words to my parents. "Please pray." I hit send and locked the screen. Those words weren't a plea. They were a mirror throwing their neglect back at them. I'd said it when I needed them, and they'd ignored me. Now it was my turn. I wasn't going to pick up their pieces this time. The nurse came in, her hands quick as she checked my chart. "You okay?" she asked, noticing my clenched jaw. I nodded, not trusting my voice. She adjusted my pillow and left the door clicking shut. I leaned back, Bryce's words echoing. Joanne's scam wasn't just her mess, it was theirs too. Marvin and Mabel had enabled her signing papers without a second thought, and now they expected me to swoop in. I thought of the nights I'd stayed up crunching numbers to keep their house afloat, $500 a month wired without fail. When Joanne's car was nearly repossessed, I'd driven across town with a check, no questions asked. Every crisis, every call I'd answered. And where were they when I needed them? Sipping cocktails in Miami, not even a text to check on me. The phone buzzed again, another text from Bryce. "Marion. They're desperate. Please." I set it face down. For years, I'd been their safety net, the one they called when things fell apart. I remembered Marvin's voice years ago when he lost his job. "Just this once, Marion. It was never once." Joanne's tears when her credit card was cut off, "I'll pay you back." She never did. I'd poured myself into their problems thinking it made us family. But now, with 39 missed calls and a lawsuit hanging over them, I saw it clearly. They didn't need me. They needed my wallet. The spark inside me grew, not anger, but resolve, sharp and unyielding. I wasn't their fixer anymore. I shifted in bed, the ache in my ribs fading against this new feeling. Freedom. It was small, fragile, but real. I'd spent years tethered to their chaos, their demands, their endless needs. But here, in this sterile room, with no one but nurses checking on me, I felt it a chance to let go. I didn't owe them my strength, my money, my life. Please pray I'd written, and I meant it not for me, but for them to face their own consequences. I closed my eyes not to escape, but to hold on to that flicker of freedom. The next morning, a small gift box showed up at the ICU desk. The nurse handed it to me, her voice casual as she said it came from Mabel. I turned it over, the plain wrapping crinkling under my fingers. No note, no card, no apology, just a box, like a half-hearted gesture meant to fill the silence of her absence. I set it unopened on the tray table, my ribs still tender, but my mind clear. Mabel's gift didn't erase the weeks of her silence, the voicemails begging for help only when she was desperate. It was too late for tokens, too late for anything but the truth. She hadn't been there when I needed her, and I wasn't going to let her back in now. I grabbed my phone not to check the group chat, but to open my banking app. My fingers moved with purpose, pulling up the recurring transfer, $500 a month, wired to Marvin and Mabel's landlord for years. I'd set it up after their panicked call about eviction, a reflex to keep their lives from falling apart. Every month, I'd watched my account shrink, telling myself it was what family did. But now, staring at the screen, I saw it for what it was, a chain I'd forged myself. I tapped cancel, confirmed it, and watched the transaction vanish. A wave of relief crashed over me, lighter than I'd ever felt. For years, I'd carried their weight, rent, debts, crises. Now, I was free. I leaned back in bed, the bandages less suffocating, and let that lightness sink in. I wasn't their anchor anymore. Vivian came by that afternoon, her nurse's scrubs wrinkled from a 12-hour shift. She dropped into the chair beside me, her eyes flicking to the unopened gift box. "Mabel," she asked, her eyebrow arched. I nodded, and she snorted softly. "You don't owe her a thing, Marion," she said, her voice firm but warm. "Focus on you." She leaned forward, her tone brightening. "You know there's a hospital in Shreveport hiring nurses. Better pay, smaller team, new start." She painted a picture of Shreveport, a quieter city with a riverfront, new clinics, and a chance to leave Baton Rouge's chaos behind. She'd heard about the job from a friend who'd moved there, said the hospital was desperate for experienced nurses like us. "You could walk away from all this," she said, gesturing at the gift box, the hospital room, the weight of my family. Her words lit a spark. Shreveport, a new city, a new job. A life not tethered to Mabel's demands or Joanne's scams. I'd never considered leaving Baton Rouge, my job, my routine, my roots were here. But what were those roots? A family that only called when they needed money. A sister who'd dragged us into a lawsuit. Vivian kept talking, describing Shreveport's neighborhoods, tree-lined streets, affordable apartments, a community that felt alive. "You're stronger than you think," she said, her hand resting on mine. "You've carried them too long. It's time to carry yourself." She told me about her own move years ago, how leaving her hometown had given her space to breathe, to build a life not defined by her family's endless needs. Her story felt like a roadmap guiding me towards something I hadn't dared imagine. I spent the rest of the day thinking about Shreveport. I pulled up my phone not to check messages but to search for apartments. One-bedrooms with small balconies, nothing fancy but mine. I pictured a place where I could wake up without a text from Marvin begging for rent, without Mabel's voicemails demanding I fix their latest crisis. I thought of Vivian's life, her apartment, her puppy, her freedom. Canceling that transfer had been the first step. Now I was ready to take another. I grabbed a notepad from the bedside table and started jotting down plans, hospitals to email, moving companies to call, a rough budget for the move. Shreveport wasn't just a city, it was a chance to start over, to build something for myself. The nurse came in, her hands quick as she checked my chart. "You seem different today," she said, a small smile breaking through. I nodded, not explaining. It wasn't just the canceled payment or Mabel's gift, it was the decision taking shape. Shreveport was my way out, my chance to leave behind the family that had taken me for granted. Vivian's words had cut through the fog, showing me what I could have. Mabel's gift sat untouched, a symbol of what I was leaving behind. I didn't need her gestures or her approval. That night, my phone rang, and the screen lit up with the words, "My grandmother, a rare comfort in the cold routine of the ICU." I shifted my pillows, the bandages around my ribs looser now, and answered,